The story of John Dame Bushnell and Jane Ipson Riley Bushnell. John D. Dame Bushnell 1882 to 1956 and Jane Jenny Ipson Riley 1882 to 1955. They were my beloved grandparents on my mother's side. My favorite thing to do as a child was to visit their farm at the east edge of Meadow, Utah in the 1940s and early 1950s. As we arrived, we were warmly welcomed into their home, and Grandpa would reach into his bib overall pocket, take out his brown leather coin purse, and give us children some coins. Grandma always had a wonderful dinner for us, cooked on her wood-burning stove, along with some warm, freshly baked bread, a chicken she had killed, plucked, cleaned, and cooked, and fresh vegetables from their large garden. As a young boy, I loved to play in the sandpile of white mountain sand, brought in from the sand dunes west of Meadow, to the west of the house, and explore the barn, chicken coop, pig pen, and barnyard, and see all the horses, cows, and chickens. I could look for pretty rocks in the dry creek bed. There were an amazing variety of birds, and I would wake up to their loud singing outside the farmhouse windows. It was so different from the city life of my childhood. I must tell their inspiring story for their descendants to read. Jenny's parents. Sarah Ipson 1860 to 1948. Sarah, Jenny's mother, was the oldest daughter of Niels Peter Ipson and Georgine Marie Keller of Denmark. Niels and Georgine were part of the Second Handcart Company, walking the 1,300 miles to Utah in the year 1856. Sarah was born in Manti, Utah, and at the age of 12, her parents divorced. She was living with her mother and siblings out of a wagon during their first year in Beaver. She married James Riley at the age of 17. Sarah served as the Relief Society president in Beaver for many years. James Henry Riley 1853 to 1888. James was born in England and his family migrated to Utah to be with the body of the church. James and Sarah were married in 1877 and were called to the Hole in the Rock pioneer trek to settle southeastern Utah. After 2 years of crop failures in Bluff, they moved back to Beaver, Utah, where Jenny was born. John D. Parents. Catherine Hayes Dame 1861 to 1947. Catherine's mother, Lavina, knew the prophet Joseph Smith in Nauvoo, Illinois. Catherine was born in Fillmore, Utah, and during her childhood, her father left the family and went back east for several years. The family was poor, and Catherine at age 11 went to work for a family with twin babies during the summer. As a wife and mother, she often milked the cows, did farm chores, and loved to work in their large vegetable garden. Catherine taught Relief Society lessons in Meadow for 25 years. Edward Brockbank Bushnell 1860 to 1935. Edward was born in Fillmore, Utah, and he and Catherine were married in Meadow, Utah on New Year's Day of 1880. They built a home on Main Street in Meadow, and they operated a farm. Edward and some of his brothers operated a successful sheep business. Edward and Catherine were blessed with 12 children. Edward was known for his generosity and giving help to the less fortunate, and he always gave to those in need. Note, the Ipson family of Denmark and the Riley, Dame, and Bushnell families of England were all converts to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and all migrated to Utah. The story of John D. and Jenny. Jenny Ipson Riley was born in Beaver, Utah December 1, 1882, went to school in Beaver, and graduated in 1897. She then attended the Murdoch Academy for 1 year, but tuition being more than they could afford, she was unable to continue. Her family had a carpet loom, and Jenny would help her mother as they would weave 60 yards of carpet each week. She moved out of her home to help another family with their children, and she did their housework. Then she got a job at the Beaver Woolen Mills running the spooler machine and later wove cloth on a loom. John Dame was the oldest son of his large family and was known to all as John D. He was born on March 23, 1882 in Meadow, Utah. When not going to school in Meadow, he worked on the family farm chopping wood, milking cows morning and evening, watering and feeding cows, horses, pigs, and chickens. He also, with his brothers, plowed, planted, and harvested crops and helped irrigate during the family's water turn. He and his father were away taking care of their sheep herds for weeks at a time during the summer in the mountains above Meadow and in the winter out in the West Desert. John D. went to Beaver to attend the Murdoch Academy and sang in the school choir. It was at the Murdoch Academy that he met Jenny, and they became good friends. After a year of courtship, they went to the Manti Temple and, dressed in their white temple clothing and holding hands across the altar, were married for time and all eternity. This took place on the 2nd day of September 1903. During the next 8 years, they moved to Meadow, Beaver, Clear Lake, and Milford. John D. worked at a smelter in Milford 1 year. Part of this time, Jenny was with her mother living in Beaver. Twice they went back to Meadow to help run John's father's farm. They lived in a home in Beaver for a while. During this time, 4 of their children were born. Venice, 1904, was born in Meadow, Riley, 1906, Alton, 1908, and Bryant, 1912, were all born in Beaver. About 30 miles west of the towns of Fillmore, Canosh, and Beaver was a railroad line. Along the railroad line were the small towns of Clear Lake, Black Rock, and Milford. John D. got a great job working for the Union Pacific Railroad, and they moved to Clear Lake. In a short time, he was promoted as foreman of a railroad section team. His team had a reputation for laying the straightest railroad tracks in the state of Utah. At one time, when living in Clear Lake, north of Black Rock, the railroad wanted to move them on a flat railroad car south to Milford. The family was told to be ready to move in 2 hours. Jenny had just mixed bread and did not want to throw the bread away. She lit a fire in her kitchen stove with some coal and put the bread in the oven. She had the men load the hot stove onto the rail car. As they arrived, the stove was placed into their home. The bread had finished baking and it tasted fine. Family home in Milford about 1915, Bryant, Riley, Alton, Venice, and Jenny holding baby Leland. From 1910 to 1918, the family lived in Milford, where Leland was born. During the time living in Milford, Jenny was serving in the Relief Society and John D. was serving in the Sunday School Presidency. Moved to Meadow. Jenny did not like living in the small railroad towns. John D. was making a good monthly income. However, the hobos that rode the rail cars made her nervous. She would sometimes feed 5 or 6 of them with their family dinner. They also worried about their boys getting into trouble and felt it would be better for their family to live on a farm where their boys would learn how to work. In 1918, John D. quit his job and the family moved to Meadow and onto a small farm at the east end of town. For many years, the family had special memories and talked about that move from Milford to Meadow. They packed all their belongings in 2 horse-drawn wagons. It was long after dark as their wagons reached the main street in Meadow, and the town had long since gone to sleep. As the family approached their home, it was all lit up with many lanterns. John D.'s parents and siblings had a wonderful dinner waiting for them. Their red brick home was small and only had 3 rooms, a kitchen, living room, and 1 bedroom. There was no bathroom, just an outhouse some 40 yards away, and no running water, which was to come later. Except during the winter, the 4 boys slept outside in a tent sitting on the east side of the home. Their last child, number 6, Maxine, was born in this home in 1919. Difficult times. No longer was John D. receiving a monthly paycheck. To survive on a farm, they had to purchase cows, horses, pigs, and chickens, and they needed to buy feed for their animals. It was also necessary to buy seed to plant in hopes of harvesting a good crop during the following fall. During one of their first years in Meadow, their harvest was a failure. During the winter before, the Meadow Mountains received very little snowfall. The Meadow Creek almost dried up, and without sufficient water, their crops failed. John D. became very quiet. Day after day, he would leave home and walk up and down and across all the streets of Meadow. His father, Edward, would often walk with him, trying to get him to talk. Back in that day, people did not understand depression or mental illness. Finally, his family took him to an institution near Provo and had him admitted. After a few weeks, Jenny went with John's parents to visit him. As they arrived, John D. was out working on some farmland with other patients, so the three of them waited in his father's car waiting for him to return. After some time, the wagon was returning with the patients. When John D. saw Jenny and his parents, he jumped out of the wagon and ran to them. The orderlies over the patients were very angry with John D. and grabbed him and somewhat violently forced him into the building. Jenny, seeing how they had treated her husband, was so upset. She insisted that John D. not stay there another day. They took him home to his family, his home, and his farm. Jenny and John D. worked together as a team for the next 30 years, raising their 6 children and managing their farm on the east end of Meadow. Maxine and her accidents. Alton, mother, and little 4-year-old Maxine went up to the fruit orchard to pick the ripe peaches. 2 work horses were hitched up to a buggy, and the buggy was stopped under a peach tree. Not wanting Maxine to play near the large horses, they left her in the buggy. Then Jenny and Alton climbed up from the buggy into the tree. Something spooked the horses, and they started to run away with the buggy. Maxine fell out of the buggy near the horse's hoofs, and the buggy went over her. She was knocked unconscious and was all scratched and bruised, and the necklace of beads she was wearing was broken, possibly by a horse's hoof. The family prayers that night gave thanks that Maxine was all right. When Maxine was 5, her 19-year-old sister Venice married Carl Stott, and they moved away. One day, Leland gave Maxine a pretty blue ribbon, and she liked it so much that he tied it to her arm. Then he went to shoot birds with his flipper. Jenny was in her bedroom taking a nap, and Alton was asleep in the boys' tent outside. Maxine wanted to take the ribbon off her arm but was not able to untie it. So, she went in the house and took some matches from the box hanging by the kitchen stove. She was going to burn the ribbon off her arm, but wasn't able to catch the ribbon on fire. She went back into the house and took the entire box of matches out onto the wooden porch. After several attempts, she caught the ribbon on fire. Then her dress also started burning, and she started to dance and scream in pain. Her mother came running and tore off her apron and wrapped it tightly around little Maxine, putting out the fire. Maxine was badly burned on her arm and wrist. Jenny carefully wrapped up her burns, and her arm took several months to heal. She had scars on the inside of her arm the rest of her life. Bryant had sold seeds to earn money and bought Maxine a large doll. A typical day on the Bushnell farm. John D. was up every day at 4:30 a.m. and started a fire in the kitchen stove. On some winter days it was so cold that water had frozen inside the kitchen. He then went out to the barn to milk the cows. He milked them every morning and every evening, 365 days a year. Jenny was up at 5 and cooked a large breakfast of mutton, eggs, bread, jam, milk, and cooked cereal. The children would wake to the wonderful smells of breakfast cooking and the sounds of birds singing, as there were many birds on the meadow farm. John D. would come in and read scriptures and farm journals as breakfast was made ready. Prayer was offered, and the entire family ate together at 6:30 sharp. Then it was time to work. Father, Riley, Alton, Bryant, and Leland went outside to work the farm, moving hay, fixing fences, plowing fields, chopping wood. The boys chopped wood every day into small enough lengths to fit into the kitchen stove. There was a large green wood box about 3.5 feet high next to the stove that had to be kept full of wood. Maxine would take a large pan to the wood pile and gather wood chips to start fires with. As the men left the house to work the farm and feed and water the animals, Jenny, Maxine, and Venice, till she was married, carried water from outside and heated it on the stove. They cleared off the table, put the food away, and did the dishes. As soon as the dishes were done, Jenny would mix bread and place it in the oven and start a large dinner that would be their noontime meal. Everything had to be prepared from scratch, as canned or store-bought food was an unaffordable luxury. Jenny's food shelves were well stocked with jams, jellies, bottled fruits, and fresh fruits and vegetables from their garden and fruit trees. Milk and eggs came daily from their farm, and they made their own butter. Maxine would take a bucket to the chicken coop every morning. She would pull the chickens off their nest and gather more than 2 dozen eggs, take them into the house and clean them. Then she would sweep the floor and set the table for dinner. After dinner again, water was heated, the table was cleared, and dishes were washed. In the afternoon, Jenny often worked in the large vegetable garden, planting, weeding, and shoveling long furrows for the irrigation water to flow down. In the fall, she would bottle fruit and vegetables for the family to eat through the winter. Jenny taught her daughters how to crochet and make clothes. Supper on the farm was a light meal served at 6 o'clock. It consisted of bread, milk, and fruit. The family went to bed early. There wasn't much due after dark, and the only light was from an oil lantern on the kitchen table. They were all tired and needed a good night's sleep before another day of hard work. Bath night. Saturday night was bath night, so they would all look nice for church on Sunday. The large round galvanized tub was placed on the kitchen floor after supper. Buckets of water would be hauled into the house and placed on the hot kitchen stove. After some time, there was enough warm water for Jenny and John D. to take a bath first, followed by the girls, then the boys. By the time the youngest boy Leland got his turn, the water was no longer clean or warm. Running water in the house. It was a happy day when plumbing was set up to have water inside the house. No longer did they have to go outside to get a bucket of water from the pump west of the home, regardless of the weather, rain or snow. What a blessing it was to have water plumbed into the kitchen sink, cold water that is. Church. On Sundays, the family put on their best clothing and walked the dirt meadow roads the mile to the ward house for the meetings. John D. would often carry the youngest child in front of him in a sitting position so as not to get dirt on his black suit. In stormy weather or with snow on the ground, John D. would take an hour to get the horses, bridle them, and hitch them up to the wagon so the family could ride to church. They often gave others a ride to and from church. In their later years, John D. and Jenny would ride in their old black pickup truck. Every Sunday evening, the family was invited to Grandpa Edward and Grandma Catherine's home for a nice supper. The boys, Riley, Alton, Bryant, and Leland, would have a foot race the 4 blocks to Grandma's home on Main Street. Then Grandpa Edward would get out his coin purse and give all the children coins, with the winner of the race getting the shiniest coins. John D. would continue this tradition in the 1940s and 1950s with his grandchildren. The warm spring. About 5 miles to the west of Meadow was a wonderful warm spring. Farther west was a mountain of white sand, and then even further west were the black volcano beds and the volcano cave. Past the volcano beds were the cedars where many farmers came to cut and haul wood for their farms. The warm spring was a round pool about 60 feet across of clean warm water bubbling up from deep underground. Under about 3 or 4 feet of water was a ledge that went around the spring and was perfect to stand on. The center of the spring was very deep. It was the favorite swimming place for the towns of Meadow and Canosh. It was also the place where the Meadow ward performed their baptisms. The Bushnell children often begged their father to take them there for a night of swimming and fun. Now a story my mother Maxine told me about a trip she remembered to the warm spring. The family had a quick supper, took a change of clothing and towels. Father hitched up his team of horses to the wagon. They all got into the wagon and headed west to the warm spring. Father was trying to teach a young horse how to follow, so he tied this horse to the back of the wagon with a 15-foot rope. After a fun evening of swimming in the nice warm water, they dried off, got into the wagon, and headed back towards Meadow. It was very dark, and as they come upon a small wooden bridge, the right wagon wheel missed the bridge, tipping the wagon over onto its side and throwing everyone out. Thank goodness everyone was okay. John D. had everyone stand to the side and behind the wagon as he had the team of horses pull the wagon sideways to get it back on its wheels. In the excitement, everyone forgot all about the young horse tied behind the wagon. As the wagon righted itself and started to move, the young horse ran into Jenny, and she screamed as it knocked her to the ground. Thankfully, Mother was okay, but young Maxine was so upset, she cried in her mother's arms the rest of the way home. The woodpile. Wood was essential for every farm and every home in Meadow. On cold winter nights, it would sometimes get so cold in the kitchen that water left in a pan would freeze solid. Without wood, there was no way to heat the home, heat the water, do the washing, bake the bread, or cook the meals. Every fall after the harvest and before the snow came, John D. would hitch up his horses to the wagon and take his older boys up into the mountains or sometimes west past the volcano beds into the old cedars to cut and load wagon loads of wood. This would take several trips as they would need several loads of wood to last them through the winter, spring, and summer, until the next fall. The boys and John D. would spend part of every day chopping wood into small enough lengths to fit into the stove and carrying it inside to fill the green kitchen wood box. The wood box sat next to the kitchen stove and was 3 feet wide, 5 feet long, and 3 feet deep. Their first radio. Some of the Bushnell children would complain that other families in Meadow had this new invention called a radio, but Father always said no. Finally, one day Riley, the oldest son, went the 8 miles to Fillmore, bought a radio, and charged it to his father's store account. When he brought it home, Father was angry, but did not make him return it. Maxine was so excited, she ran all the way to her friend's home and exclaimed, "We have our own radio. We don't have to come to your house to listen to General Conference anymore." John D. loved to listen to the Paul Harvey News show and would come in from the farm every day before noon to listen. The family found a radio program they loved to listen to every Friday night, and they would all gather in the living room to listen and enjoy it together. They had a wood-burning stove in the living room. On cold winter evenings, John D. would build a fire in that stove to warm the living room. The Bushnell sheep business. John D.'s father, Edward Bushnell, and some of his boys ran a large sheep business in Millard County. They had large sheep herds with hundreds of sheep, and in the winter, they were kept in the West Desert where they could eat the wild grass. In the spring, everyone's sheep herds, including the Bushnells, were taken to the Bushnell shearing pens in Meadow where their thick wool could be sheared for market. The Bushnells supervised the large shearing corrals every spring, shearing hundreds of sheep every day and shipping wool to market. Then as the snow melted off the Meadow Mountains, the sheep were herded up on the mountains to graze all summer and fall. Sheep herds required a sheep herder, a sheep wagon, and sheep dog to live with the herd. John D. would take his turn, sometimes weeks at a time, living the lonely life of a sheep herder with his dog herding the sheep to good grass and protecting them from the coyotes. When the Bushnell brothers decided to get out of the sheep business, John D. was asked to move the sheep to Delta, sell them, and divide the proceeds with the family. Successful farmers. They made some of their own clothing. John D. was something of a handyman, a mechanic, and inventor. They seldom bought things at a store, but would make or repair what the farm needed. He had a bellows and an anvil to heat horseshoes and adjusted them for different size horses' hoofs. He often made things that they needed like a fly swatter. He made fences and the gates from the house to the street and from the garden to the barnyard. On these gates, he would hang heavy weights or heavy rocks hanging from ropes and pulleys that would close and latch each gate so they could never accidentally be left open. In the early 1940s, they bought an old black pickup truck. It needed a new engine, and he purchased one and removed the old engine and installed the new one himself. Their cows provided milk morning and evening, and the family made their own butter. Chickens provided eggs daily and an occasional chicken dinner. They grew several fruit trees and had a wonderful vegetable garden. They bottled all kinds of fruits and vegetables. In the 1940 United States Census, it listed their annual income as $950 and listed John D.'s occupation as a carpenter and rock mason. As the years went by, and with the work of the entire family, things improved. They never had much money, receiving only $32 a month from selling milk and eggs, plus what they made from their fall harvest. During the 1930s, the Great Depression hit the United States. The government decided to pay farmers not to grow certain crops, thus improving the amount they could receive for their harvest. John D. said, "If they ask me to stop growing a crop, I will stop, but I will not accept money for doing nothing." John D. kept a rifle handy. At times, a coyote would get into the chicken coop. There were also skunks, badgers, squirrels, and rabbits often eating in their vegetable garden. Mice were often in the home. Millard County had a large population of snakes, most of them harmless. The rattlesnakes were not. Sometimes a snake would get into their home. Houseflies were a problem around the barnyard and in and around the house. When there got to be too many flies in the kitchen, they would have one of the kids hold open the screen door, and everyone would wave a dish towel and move to the open screen door to shoo the flies outside. Electricity and phone service. Wow, electricity was finally wired to each home in Meadow. Each of their 3 rooms now had an electric wire hanging down from the ceiling with a light bulb screwed into it. A light in every room. What a blessing. When phone service first came to Meadow, to make a call you had to walk to the switchboard on Main Street to make a call. If an important call came for you, the switchboard operator would send one of her children to your house to find you while the caller would wait on the line for as much as an hour. The time eventually came when almost every home in Meadow had a phone hanging on a wall of their living room where you could stand and talk. Every phone had a small crank, and as you turned the crank, it would ring every phone in every home in Meadow. Every home was assigned a ring that they would listen for. For example, the Bushnell home may have been 2 long, 1 short, and 1 long. Another family may have the ring of 3 short and 1 long ring. Whenever any phone would ring, everyone in town would listen to see if it was their ring. Any person could listen in on others' phone conversations. If someone in town had been sick, others would listen in on their phone call to see how they were doing. If too many people were listening in, the signal would become too weak, and a person would need to ask others to hang up so they could hear the voice of the caller. Jenny suffers a stroke. In the early 1930s, Jenny suffered a stroke, and it left her unconscious. Maxine took care of her, and a doctor was sent for. Many prayers were offered, and she received a priesthood blessing. After a couple of days, she woke up from her stroke. She said, "Why did you bring me back? It was so beautiful." She was able to continue as a loving companion to John D. for another 20 years. Water shares. Every farm in Meadow was given a number of water shares. 1 share would be 1 hour, or 2 shares would be 2 hours of the town's Meadow Creek. That meant your farm would have a turn at the Meadow Creek for that number of hours. Every farmer was given a schedule, and their share of the creek may be at any time, day or night, even 1 a.m. You had to be ready and at the top of your property, close a water gate at the assigned time, turning the flow of water into your property. Then at the precise time your shares were over, you would again turn the gate, sending the water down to the next farmer to get his share of water. The farmer had to work hard during his share, using a shovel to open and close furrows with dirt and mud to get the water to all the rows of his fields and gardens. He would dig open a furrow and watch until the water reached the end, and then close that furrow and open the next one. If it was during the night, he had to keep his lantern going. Children married and moved. The 1930s were the years of the Great Depression, and jobs were very difficult to find. Most of their children, as they got married, moved to Salt Lake City to have a better chance of finding a job. Venice had already married Carl Stott in 1923, and Riley had married Beulah Stewart in 1933. The other 4 children married and left home over the next 3 years. Leland married Margaret Pearson and moved away in 1936. Maxine married Eugene Crabtree and moved to Salt Lake City in 1937. Bryant married Dora Ross and moved away in 1938. Alton married Vay Smith and moved away also in 1938. John D. and Jenny were left to run the farm alone. It was very hard work for just the 2 of them, and they were often so lonely. Steam-powered wheat thrasher. The town of Meadow was looking for ways to improve their wheat harvest. The town bought a huge steam-powered wheat thrasher that would better separate the grain of wheat from the stem. The thrasher was as large as a locomotive as it moved up and down the streets of Meadow at 5 miles an hour. It was followed by a wood wagon and a water tank wagon. The town hired John D. Bushnell as the engineer. He and a 20-man crew went from farm to farm, harvesting the wheat from late August through November. A story about the steam thrasher printed in the book Lambs in the Meadow, written by Lee Ray. A flock of small boys followed the steamer everywhere as it rumbled along on its massive iron wheels at about 5 miles an hour. One day we followed it as it came in to thrash out Hiram Ferguson's place. Hiram and his wife Maggie were sitting in straight-back kitchen chairs beside their house, watching the big huffing monster pull itself and the separator into his yard. As the steamer passed in front of Hiram and Maggie, John D. pulled the whistle cord. The unexpected blast sent Hiram and Maggie tumbling over backward in their chairs. Everyone got a big laugh out of it. When the job was finished and the big machine was again pulling its caravan past their house, Hiram and Maggie took no chances. They went inside and locked the door. A bathroom and toilet inside their home. All the time they were raising their children, there was no indoor bathroom, and everyone had to walk to the outhouse several times a day, rain or shine. Finally, in the late 1940s, their family built an indoor bathroom next to the kitchen. They were so happy to no longer need to walk to the outhouse. Service to others. John D. was always active in the LDS Church. He was a high priest and served in many positions. As a home teacher, he often helped those in need. He would go and chop wood and shovel a path through the snow from a person's home to their outhouse, especially for the elderly and the widows. He was a community leader serving on the town board for many years. He had a great sense of humor and loved to tell stories about people. Often, he was asked to be the MC of events and gatherings in Meadow. John D. was the sexton of the Meadow Cemetery, deciding what burial plots were available for purchase. He kept a large map of all the burial plots at his home under his bed. Jenny served as president of the Daughters of Utah Pioneers and also as ward primary president. She visited the sick and also often gave from their vegetable garden. A pig story. Bryant bought 2 wiener pigs and gave them to John D. and Jenny. John D. sold one of them and the other they placed in the pig pen and raised to adulthood. For a year they fed that pig table scraps and melon rinds and gave him water and took care of him, and he became fat and very heavy. In years gone by, when they had the 4 boys to help, they would build a large bonfire and slaughter one of their pigs every fall. They would cut up the best parts of the meat to eat and even make bars of soap for the family to use. Now with just the 2 of them, it would have been too much work to slaughter this pig. So, on a Thursday, Dad said this is the day to load the large pig into the back of the truck and take him to the slaughterhouse in Fillmore. Now to quote from Jenny's letter, so we undertook to load the pig in the truck. I never saw anything fight so hard. I had to go and help and we worked for 2 hours or more. I had a rope on a front foot and fastened it to a truck post, and Dad pushed from behind up a wooden ramp. As he pushed, I would pull and take up the slack in the rope. Twice, the big pig jumped off the ramp onto the ground. Dad had to set up his pulley with block and tackle, and we finally got the pig up and tied into the back of the truck. We were sure dabbed with pig manure and oh so worn out. I didn't go to Fillmore with him. He got $83 but was expecting $100. Well, anyway, it goes into the bank to pay on the farm and not $1 for me for raising the pig. Huh. Children's visits to the farm. John D. and Jenny were lonely and loved when their children would come for a visit. The grandchildren loved exploring the farm, playing in the White Mountain sandpile, and getting a ride on a horse. Grandma Jenny fixed wonderful dinners with freshly picked corn on the cob from their garden. When the children visited from Salt Lake, they would bring a box of store-bought items that John D. and Jenny could not grow in their garden. Things like canned tuna fish, canned salmon, pork and beans, or potato chips. As they left for home, they would return with honey, fresh eggs, fruit, and corn on the cob, radishes, and other wonderful vegetables freshly picked from the garden. As they were ready to get in their car to drive home, John D. and Jenny would go outside the gate to see them off. Jenny would often say, "Now you drive slow. Then if there is an accident, you will not be there yet." Then they would stand outside the gate and wave till the car was out of sight. From a letter from Jenny dated January 1951, Dear folks, should I tell you how disappointed we are that you are not eating breakfast with us this AM? I was so sure you were coming yesterday. I killed, cleaned, and cooked chickens, and even made some mincemeat pies. The weather had moderated so much that I thought sure you would come. We will have to wait for no chance of snow for you to come. Hope Stephen isn't too disappointed. 50th Wedding Anniversary Celebration. During the month of September 1953, Jenny and John D. celebrated 50 years of marriage. It was such a special day. John D. arranged for a neighbor to milk his cows, and they drove to Salt Lake City. The entire family came, and they had a wonderful dinner at Liberty Park. The weather was perfect, and they stayed all afternoon. Jenny and John D. were dressed in their best Sunday clothes. The family ate and visited, told stories, shared memories, and took pictures. John D. read a letter he received from the governor of Utah. He was so proud. It was a day never to be forgotten. Excerpts of letters to Salt Lake 1949 to 1955. Now some interesting comments and excerpts from letters to their youngest daughter Maxine. In every letter was an expression of their love, and in almost every letter was their observations about the weather. I asked myself why they talked so much about the weather. I believe it was partly because they had to spend so much time outdoors, and the effect the weather had on the farm, their crops and animals, and also only having heat in the kitchen and no way of cooling their home during the hot summer months. Jenny letters to Maxine. March 1947. A small 3-inch by 4-inch card stating gift for baby. Let's hope for a little girl. It was genial. From a mother to her dear daughter, you will never know how much I love you. God bless you. May 1949. Alton surprised us with a visit. God bless him for all his goodness. You are all so good to us. No one ever had children so good. Would have liked to gone home with Alton, but I guess my place is to carry on here the best I can. December 26, 1950, the day after Christmas. Dear folks, oh God bless you. You are too kind. We give you a generous thank you 100 times. We are in a thick fog today, and there is a heavy frost over all the fence lines and tree branches. I am so lonely today. September 1951. I am so ill today. Killed a chicken and have it cooking on the stove. Dad is rebuilding the engine on our truck this week. To think he would try such a big job. He has been 4 days, and I guess it will take a couple more before he can get all the parts and bolts fixed. He wants to start hailing wood for the year as soon as the truck is running. Venice and Carl came Sunday and brought a pineapple pie. I get discouraged and blue. But maybe someday I will be better or worse, who knows. May God bless you all, Mom and Dad. I am so glad that you and Venice write often. December 1951. So disappointed you are not eating breakfast with us this am. I was so sure you were coming yesterday. I cleaned chickens and cooked, even made some mincemeat pies. The weather has moderated so much that I thought you would sure come. I guess we will all have to wait for February. Dad is still hammering on the roof, hoping to finish new shingles tonight. Thank you for the egg money and birthday, but Maxine, you can't do so much. I bought me a pair of galoshes and treated Dad to dinner at Fillmore Cafe. God bless all my family, they are so good to me. Bryant and Dora had a piece played over the Richfield radio on my birthday. Wayne King Orchestra played I Love You Truly. It was beautiful. I hadn't heard the Richfield station before. Venice phoned me to put radio on and listen and wished me a happy birthday. I was washing clothes. The program on the radio wished me a happy birthday. It was nice to hear my name on the air and the place where I lived. They even read Bryant and Dora's card. It sure gave me a thrill, but I couldn't hold the tears back. It has started snowing, so I guess it is a good thing you did not come. I would have worried about you driving back. May God bless you all. Kiss Stephen and Genial, Mom and Dad. January 1952. How is everybody up that way? The sun is out. It is beautiful and so warm. No clouds in the sky. Dad said while I write he would go outside and cut some wood, but here he is asleep in his chair. May God bless you all. Do take care. Love and best wishes, Mom and Dad. February 1952. Dear folks, how are you all? The sun is out today. Yesterday it forgot to come out. The farm is covered in snow, and under the snow the ground is covered in ice. It has stormed most of the week. I wish I didn't have to clean eggs, but we must clean them. Note the chicken coop roof leaked, making a muddy floor, which the chickens got all over the eggs. It wants to storm again. The wind is blowing from the south. March 1952. Snowing this morning. The sun came out and Dad beat it to Fillmore for coal. Note: buying coal was a luxury the Bushnells could not normally afford. He can't keep us in wood. Note: he was now 70 years old. When we got up this morning, it was snowing. He drove to the post office, and we got so many cards and money. Dad decided he could afford 500 pounds of coal rather than chopping more wood. Alton sent $4, Bryant and Dora sent $2, Venice sent rolls and cookies. The sun is still shining. Maybe one of these days it will be spring. I am so sick. Dad had to help me fix breakfast. Dad is so glad he got us some coal, but I did worry about him as big snowstorm came up while he was in Fillmore. March 1952. Dear sweethearts. Looks like a storm. Wind blew all night. Venice and Carl came with hot rolls and cooked supper Friday. Venice wanted to take me to Milford for a week, but I couldn't leave Dad. He needs me. I didn't have the heart to go. He has a new calf. He did chores all forenoon and then went home teaching. Now he went to milk the cows and feed the new calf. Funny story: Dad fell asleep in his chair. I read paper and fell asleep on the couch, so sound. We woke up after 11 o'clock and all the clocks had stopped. I called Central to get the time. We had a good laugh and went to bed. Do hope the weather gets better so you can come for Easter. I am trying to get better. Carl says I have got to be hard-boiled. I will try. Well, my dear girl, do take care of yourself with the new baby. Dad is so good to me. September 1952, a small card. How did your drive home go yesterday? I hope fine. I am so lonely today. I went down to the post office with Dad, and we got some lovely towels and washcloths. Come again and stay a day or two. Thanks for showing us the movie pictures and for the ride in your brand new car. Come down again before it gets too cold. With a new baby, I hope Stephen and Genial will help you all they can. Don't think you are slaves because you help Mama. Do be good children. January 1953. Happy New Year's to you. Thank you for our wonderful Christmas. Thank you so much for all the eats, the candy and dates. They were so nice. We did enjoy the carrot pudding. I wish you could tell me how to make it. Margaret and Leland sent oranges, apples, and a nice plum pudding. Venice and Carl brought us a big box of eats, yam, beans, corn, peas, yams, and 2 bottles of mincemeat. Bryant and Dora sent us a $5 greenback each. The bishop got after Dad and asked to let the church help us with our doctor bills. I am so thankful he offered. It is a beautiful day. The sun is so beautiful and warm. I am feeling much better. September 1953, small card. Thanks for the good time we had. It was perfect in every way. Come down and show us the movies again. Venice sure worked hard. She cleaned the bedroom and painted front room and kitchen. I tried to help some, but I am getting old. September 1953, small card. Thank you for the peaches. They were lovely. Did you get your fruit put up? The rug that Riley and Leland sent has not come yet. May 1954. Yes, we had a nice Mother's Day. Dad fixed the dinner. Bryant came and spent the day with us, took us to the Indian camp and to Canosh. Beulah sent me a dress. Venice sent me 4 of those table mats. Margaret and Leland sent me $3 bills. Alton and Vay sent 3 1.00 bills. Come down and we will go to White Mountain. Bring Monty and Genial before it gets too warm. Dad is thinking he will have the water tonight. He is out working in the field. It isn't too cold or warm either. Come down and we will go to White Mountain. I will save some eggs for Genial and Lamont to roll. I hope we can catch some fish from the canyon stream. May 1954. If you will come down for Decoration Day, I don't need to go to Beaver. I get so lonesome for you all. How is Genial, Monty, and Stephen? Dad had a runaway yesterday, and it took him the rest of the day to fix the harness. He is hauling straw today and burning weeds. There are so many. Our garden looks fine. Dad has another patch of corn ready. The radishes are almost ready. We have a lot of yellow roses out. Dad went up the tree and took a big limb down on the lawn. July 1954. It is hot. Want some beets? They are ready now. Our carrots are ready too. Aunt May came and I so enjoyed her visit. We went to a horse race in Fillmore. Dee took my teeth to Beaver to try to fix them, so I am toothless. Had Riley and family up to supper Sunday night. Our corn will be ready at the end of the month and the new potatoes look fine. A cherry peddler from Orem came down and I bought $1 worth of cherries to eat and I bottled 2 quarts. August 1954. Dear folks, wrecked your good letter yesterday. I am so poorly and so lonesome. I can hardly write. Dad went for a load of wood for the winter months. I am so lonesome. It is so hot, we sweat both night and day. Is it hot up there? But September will soon be here and it will get cooler. We have so many flies and we have mice in the house and do they keep us awake? We caught 2 last night. That trap that Jean sent has caught 5 squirrels and a skunk. Dad said to get painkillers, sleeping pills, and phenobarbital from Venice and send them. I didn't sleep at all last night. I thought I could get along but am so bad. Love to all. Dad and Mom. September 1954. Wrecked medicine, thank you so much. Dad said if medicine hadn't come he would have cried. Dad has rheumatism in his shoulder and he is so miserable. He hooked up the team and hauled straw to pile up for this winter. Please excuse me, I am so ill. September 1954. Please excuse me, I am so ill. Just wrecked a call from Cheryl and Bruce. How did the wedding come out? Cheryl and Bruce were so pleased to have you with them in the temple. October 1954. My shingles are so bad. Jean and Alton worked so hard on our front room. Dad is working at the church today. I am alone and so lonesome. Leland sent us some pine nuts and they are lovely. October 1954, isn't it cold? If you find a doctor that cures shingles, let me know. I must look him up. My face is so bad. We have been very cold the last 2 nights. The fire feels so good. Dad is out digging carrots today. The sun is shining but nights are cold. Oh, my head aches so bad. Lots of love and may God bless you all, Dad and Mom. October 1954. Did you get your deer? Did you get a storm? We have had storms all week. We should send up some honey. I am so sick. I fell off the west porch and Dad had to come from milking the cows to help me back into the house this morning. I have hurt me some. God bless you all, Dad and Mom. November 1954. I wanted so bad to go with Venice Saturday, but I feel so punk. Dad had an afternoon, so went to work at the church. Dad didn't want me to go with Venice. He hates to be alone, but I am afraid he will be left alone one of these days. My shingles are so bad. My God bless you and keep you all. Jenny went to live with Venice in Salt Lake and passed away in February of 1955. John D. Letters to Maxine. May 1955. Eugene, Maxine, Stephen, Genial, and Monty, dear children. After I came out of church it was blowing till you could only see about 1 block for the dust. I went to a primary conference Sunday night and their program was very good. It reminded me very much of Mom's work in that organization. She sure had a handful and to think she had to walk so many times to town and back, it sure was tiring. May Beckstrand, I need to call on her one of these days. She was so good to visit Mom. May the good Lord bless you all, J. D. B. Note the stickers on the back of his envelopes. Help crippled children, Easter seals. April 1955. Glad that Genial got baptized. It is sure nice when they can be taken care of at the proper time. Times have changed. I was about 11 when I was baptized and 18 before I was ordained to the Aaronic priesthood. The wind is so bad today you can't see for the dust. The wind blew the roof off Pearson's chicken coop. I had the water all night last night. At about 3:30 a.m. I took the boards out to let the water into my fields. As I was walking along the top of the ditch when a strong gust of wind hit me and laid me on my back right into the bottom of the ditch. Well, I crawled out like a drowned rat. I picked up my shovel and my lantern and started making my way back to the house. I was lucky to have a tank of hot water, and I got right into the tub. My clothes were a sight as they were so muddy. Fred Burt says he falls in a ditch every time he has the water, so his wife just lays a change of clothes out for him each time. If you can, I wish you would send me the names of those who sent flowers for Mom's funeral. I want to plant grass over Mom's grave as soon as they turn the water on at the cemetery. Your affectionate dad, J. D. V. P.S. Started snowing at 12:15. We have 6 to 8 inches of good wet snow and colder than blazes. I guess the apricots are doomed. June 1955. Meadow, Utah, June 3, 55. Dear kids, your good letter came this AM. It found me well. I washed clothes and got most of it in before the rain, but it didn't rain enough to sprinkle the clothes for ironing. I am some better, but still not good. The blame weather had to come before I was better. I do hate to irrigate. My turn seems to come during the night all the time. August 1955. You know, I have seen such good corn. It is so favorable, or else it tastes so good, because we are out of the habit of eating corn. I don't think Mom missed a meal without an ear of corn for several months last summer. I took a mess to Alice Watts last Friday and left a mess on the porch for Peril George. Well, he sure wrote an appreciative letter about that corn. I will try to keep you posted on my next corn, so it will be on when you come down. Then you can take a good bit back with us. Your trip won't be a loss. It will be at least 2 weeks yet anyway. Note, they planted rows of corn every 2 weeks apart so it would not all ripen at the same time. September 1955. John's last letter. I went to Kenosh again the other day. Alice had written a letter about the nice honey I took her. I took her some of the last of the corn and some carrots, onions, and tomatoes. I made her a fly swatter out of an inner tub and a clothes hanger like we use. She was sure glad to get it, as she was trying to swat flies with a towel. I believe Jane is doing better now. I gave them 3 good messes of the corn, and Bryant got some. I took a good mess to Lee W. Bushnell and to E.J. Duncan and to the bishop. I put a pot of corn on the stove that I thought was too old. When I got home from church, it was so good. You should have kept the $5 to help get the kiddies ready for school. God bless you all. J. D. V. John D. Bushnell suffers paralyzing stroke. In the early winter of 1955, John D. spent a week with his family in Salt Lake City and decided to sell his farm and live with his family in Salt Lake. He took the bus back to Meadow and walked the 4 blocks in the freezing weather to his home. It was late, and even though the house was freezing, he was too tired to build a fire, so he just went to bed. The next morning again, he did not build a fire. He just put on his Sunday clothes and went to church. During the first meeting, he suffered a severe stroke. He was paralyzed and confined to a hospital bed in the Fillmore Hospital. His family visited him as often as they could. The hospital was next to the Fillmore Museum, to the west. I remember playing on the grass near the museum during some of those visits. After about a year, he passed away on the 14th of October, 1956. He was buried next to his beloved Jenny at the east end of the Meadow Cemetery.